Well, I prefer to think of it as flood risk management as opposed to floodplain management. And too often, individuals and citizens especially think that they're either in the floodplain or out of the floodplain. And the floodplain exists everywhere. And it's just a matter of how much is your risk, depending on how close you are to the hazard. So flood risk management is really assessing the hazard, looking at the consequences from various events, and then doing plans to provide more resiliency in the communities, lower the risk over time that's economically achievable, as well as have intrinsic benefits such as natural and beneficial functions of floodplains that have been degraded over time and restoring those.
I think it's, there's a lot of people that live in flood-prone areas in this country, and I don't think that fact is going to change anytime soon. So to me, it's not about how to avoid flooding per se, but how to live with it and effectively manage it in all of our lives.
Floodplain management, it really is trying to find that balance between what's going on in the floodplain, whether it's the natural environment or the man-built environment, trying to figure out where the line is for risk and hazards and the mutual benefits, and getting a program together that people understand what the risks are when they're there, and also the benefits of staying back out of the floodplain as much as possible. So a good management program is a win-win for everybody. People stay safe, they still have the habitat, they still have a place to go, and we still have the salmon and all the species and the beavers and the deer and everything else that's down in the floodplain.
Floodplain management is probably the keystone to saving our nation a lot of money that we need to use for many things. And what it is avoiding the hazard. People often ask, how can we reduce disaster losses? Probably the single most important action we can take is to avoid the hazard whenever possible.
Floodplain management deals with the risk associated with flooding, but also the beneficial functions of the floodplain and maintaining those ecosystem services that they provide to the watershed.
Floodplain management is really about trying to get a handle of what your flood risk is, and then basically trying to, I'd say, buy down that risk or make that risk less by understanding that, not only understanding the hazard, but understanding how you can mitigate against that hazard by either doing things like increasing the elevation of your structure or other flood-proofing techniques so that you will be less susceptible to flooding in the future.
Well, it's the most deadly and the most costly natural disaster in the world, and that's the point that we start with in Australia, that our communities rely on our expertise to try to get it right. So floodplain management means community education, public education. It means proper predictions, proper modelling, and strategies and mitigation measures to try to reduce the cost and increase safety to our community.
Well, floodplain management is living in an area as well as you can, dealing with all the factors around you. You know, every community needs an economy, it needs infrastructure, and needs a good environment. And when you live in an area that is prone to flooding, in a floodplain, then you need to make all of that work inside the threat of flooding and working with the water around you.